Hey y'all, per usual, I'm going to be showing y'all everything that I cooked my family for dinner over the course of a week. So, first up, I tried out a new crockpot recipe, and these are chicken Caesar sandwiches. This has very few ingredients and it's extremely simple. So, I just grabbed a pack of boneless, skinless chicken thighs, but you could totally do this with chicken breasts if you wanted to. But I'm just going to dump that into the bottom of my crockpot. Now, a lot of times I do like trim off as much fat as I can with thighs beforehand, but I decided to just do it after. I am going to pour in a cup of water so that the chicken can cook in that and, not dry out. But I'm going to add my lid and I'm going to let that cook on low for 4 hours. Now that the chicken is fully cooked through, I'm just going to go in with a slotted spoon to remove that chicken out of the liquid and place it onto a cutting board to cool down a little bit. I'm going to get rid of that liquid, and I just shredded up my chicken. It fell apart super easily. Like I said earlier, I did get rid of as much fat as I could. Tossed it back in the crock pot, and then you'll want to grab a bottle of your favorite Caesar dressing. I'm pretty sure this was my first time buying the Ken's Steakhouse Caesar dressing, and it was really, really good. I'll definitely be buying that from now on. I initially started with a half a cup of the dressing, but next time I would just ditch the measuring cup because I had to keep on adding in a little bit more and a little bit more, so to save a dish, I wouldn't do that. You basically just need enough dressing to coat your chicken to your liking. But here, I just added in a half a cup of some Parmesan cheese that I shredded up. As you can see, this is like too crumbly for me, so I did add in a little bit more. So now this is at a consistency that would work for a sandwich. So I just topped it with pepper and I let that cook on high for 30 minutes just to basically heat up that dressing and let everything kind of melt and meld together. So you can serve this on like regular hamburger buns if you wanted to, but I chose these brioche slider buns, and I buy those at the Walmart bakery. As you see in the first clip, I did add some pickles, which is a must. Love the crunch that it gave the sandwiches and the flavor, and I just served it with some plain potato chips. But this was super good. It reminded us a lot of like chicken salad, but just a hot version. We actually ate the leftovers as chicken salad cold. Up next, I made this chicken enchilada soup, which really hit the spot since it has been freezing outside. Soup has always been a huge comfort food of mine, and it's one of those things that my whole family will pretty much always eat. You can definitely do this in a crock pot if you wanted to, but I needed it quicker, so I just did it on the stovetop in my Dutch oven. So I just melted down a tiny amount of butter and heated up a little bit of olive oil with that. I threw in one diced jalapeno, and I just cooked that for a few minutes. If you like onions, just cook it in with a jalapeno. I also added in a huge spoonful of minced garlic, and then I added in 4 cups of chicken broth. Now I'm going to dump in a can of enchilada sauce. I believe this is a 10-ounce one. This is my favorite brand, the Old El Paso, and I always get them mild for my family's sake. I'm also going to add in this whole can of Rotel. I didn't drain it. I left in all the juices. And in here is all of my seasoning. So we have some onion and garlic powder, chili powder, cumin, dried mustard, a little bit of cinnamon, and a little bit of cayenne pepper. And as I always say, when I follow a recipe, you can find that down below in my description box so that you can get the exact measurements if you're interested in this recipe. I did add in 1 can of corn drained and 1 can of black beans that I had rinsed and drained. So I also added in just a few dashes of hot sauce. I recently discovered that Cholula hot sauce. I know that it's been around a long time, but it is new to me and I have been obsessed. It is so good. So I just added in 1 large chicken breast, and once it came up to a low boil, I let that cook for 20 minutes. And I do like to set a timer when it comes to my meats because I don't want it to be overcooked. I definitely don't want like dry and tough chicken. But I just removed that from the broth, shredded it up, and then I just dumped that back on into the soup. Now I have turned my temperature down to low, and I'm going to add in a half a block of softened cream cheese, and I'm just going to keep on stirring that until it melts. You can tell that it's melted once the color of your soup has changed. And now on to the last ingredient. I'm going to add in about 1.5 cups of some shredded sharp cheddar cheese, and it should melt like instantly into the soup. Especially when you shred it yourself, it just tends to like melt better. But that was it. Here is my bowl. I topped it with a little bit of extra cheese, a lot of extra hot sauce, and I added some of these tortilla strips that I believe is meant for a salad, but I really love that in soups. And yeah, it was really good. I have tried like many like enchilada chicken soups over the years, but this one was a little bit different. And like I said, we really enjoyed it. And the leftovers were just as good, which is really important to me. Next up, I made a super kid-friendly meal, and that was these pepperoni lasagna roll-ups. So here's all the ingredients that I used for that, including the garlic bread that I served with it. Ironically, everything here was a great value. Definitely didn't do that on purpose. No, I'm not sponsored. They have no clue who I am, but I just like to save money. You can totally use regular pepperoni. We have just been on a turkey pepperoni kick lately. But the first thing that I'm going to do is bring a large pot of water to a boil. That's when I salt the water, and I added in 16 lasagna noodles, and I cooked that just like 1 minute shy of what the box said. Then I'm going to drain it and just let that chill in the strainer so that it can cool down a bit, and I can get started on the filling. So for that, it's just a 15-ounce container of ricotta cheese, and then I just seasoned it with some garlic and onion powder and some Italian seasoning. So I stirred that together, and I gave it a little bit of a taste test, and it definitely needed some salt. So I'm just going to add that on in, and that is it for the ricotta mixture. So now I'm just going to grab my 9x13 baking dish and spray it with some nonstick cooking spray and add just a layer of spaghetti sauce to the bottom. I'm just taking the back of my spoon and spreading that out into an even layer. And now I can get started on the lasagna noodles. So I just have a few laid out on my cutting board, and I just add a spoonful, spread it out, and now I'm just lining up my turkey pepperoni along the ricotta mixture. So now onto the fun part. I'm just going to roll these up and get them added to my casserole dish, where I will top it with the rest of that spaghetti sauce and some mozzarella cheese. I'm going to throw that in the oven at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. Here's what it looked like once all the cheese was nice and melted. I'm just topping it with some dried parsley to give it some color. This definitely took a lot less time than I thought it would to prepare, and it could feed a lot. I think this will be great for like a freezer meal prep. I just served it with some cheesy garlic bread and some corn on the cob. This turned out great, but there is two things that I would probably change next time. It's probably just me being picky and like a perfectionist, but for one, I would probably change the brand of the sauce. I just didn't care for the Great Value one as much as I used to. Maybe my taste buds have changed. Also, I think I would prefer the pepperonis like baked on top. That way they can crisp up, kind of like a pizza. The next night, I made these loaded burger bowls that you make in a muffin tin, and I served it with some fried potatoes. That's something we've been craving for a while now. And I also made this cauliflower bacon salad. So I'm going to be sharing the recipes for the burger bowls and the salad. So starting with the salad, since that's what I prepared first, I have a head of lettuce and a head of cauliflower, and I'm just going to get those washed and chopped. For my lettuce, I always store it in like a Ziploc bag with a piece of folded up paper towel on each side to help absorb that moisture, and I've been storing it that way for years. It just helps to keep it fresher longer. And for my cauliflower, I just have it in this glass bowl, and I'm going to set that in the fridge until I'm ready to make it. For the dressing, you're going to want some mayonnaise. I'm pulling out the Hellmann's. I'm going to use a half a cup of that, and you're going to need some sugar. So the original recipe called for a third cup of sugar, but I did cut the dressing recipe in half because I knew I wouldn't need the full amount, and I wasn't sure what a half of a third was, so I had to Google it, but apparently it's 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons. And then I added in 2 tablespoons of vinegar, which made me like extremely nervous. I've put vinegar in dressings like pretty often, but never that much, so I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out, but that was it. I got it whisked together, and I'm going to let that chill in the fridge for a bit. I've also got my bacon prepped. I cooked it earlier in the day, and I've just got it crumbled and added to this Tupperware dish. Now I'm going to assemble the salad. So I pulled out my favorite salad bowl, and I'm just adding some lettuce in the bottom, followed by a good amount of that cauliflower and most of that bacon. I'm also going to add in like a big handful of shredded cheese, and I used about 4 to 5 tablespoons of that dressing. I thought that would be the perfect amount for for this amount of salad. So I'm just going in with my tongs now and getting that all tossed together. And then off camera, I did add some like black pepper over the top, but that was it. This turned out incredible. I got the idea to make this from a baby shower that I went to over the summer. Someone had brought it and it was so good to me that I wrote it down in my phone in my notes to recreate it. So I'm so glad that I finally did. But moving on to the burger bowls. So I have 1 pound of ground beef, which is the perfect amount for my family. If you have a larger family, definitely double this. But I also have a muffin tin that I have just sprayed with some nonstick cooking spray. And I have just divided that meat into these little cups. And I'm just going in with my fingers and kind of pressing it up against the sides. Mine was partially frozen a little bit, so I had a time with this. And, I guess these could probably turn out a little bit better if they were, completely thawed. But I did the best I could. I seasoned those with salt and pepper, popped those in the oven at 400 degrees, and they're going to cook for about 15 minutes. I did pull those out halfway through to drain off the grease, and I did that with some paper towels. Then I popped them out and use a paper towel to clean out the bottoms. So I definitely recommend using a leaner ground beef. I used 80/20 since that's all I had on hand. I was actually in quarantine for this whole week of meals that you're seeing. So I was just lucky to have what I had to throw these meals together. So now I'm just topping the burgers with some cheese and bacon. And I put that back in the oven for about 7 to 8 more minutes. And that was it. I topped them with some dried chives and some random Raising Cane sauce that we had in the fridge. And this meal was absolutely delicious. I would 100% make it again. Now on to the last dinner idea in this video. I made this teriyaki beef fried rice. So the first thing I did was prep the meat. So I grabbed this skirt steak. As you can see, it's under a pound. You don't need a lot of meat with this recipe because the rice and the veggies bulk it up. So that's one way to save some money, is to throw it into some fried rice. And I grabbed this teriyaki sauce. It's the Panda Express one. This was my first time buying it. So I'm just going to take that meat and I'm going to add it to a gallon size Ziploc bag, and then I'm going to measure out 3/4 a cup of that teriyaki sauce and just pour it over the meat. I'm going to massage that in, make sure that both sides are coated, and then I'm just going to seal it up and I'm going to pop that in the freezer for a bit. So now I am heating up my wok with some olive oil, and I'm going to go ahead and cook up my veggies first. So I'm throwing in some fresh broccoli, and I'm also going to throw in this whole bag of frozen peas and carrots. So I just cooked that for a few minutes, basically just until my broccoli was cooked. I did decide to drizzle on a little bit of that teriyaki sauce to give the veggies some of that flavor. And then I just transferred that to like a large bowl and added some more oil to the wok. And now I'm going to fry up the rice. So this is some long grain white rice that I cooked the day before. And I do that because with fried rice, you definitely want to use cold rice. I mean, you don't have to, but in my experience, it just turns out so much better. The texture is a lot better. So I just fried that for a few minutes, scooted it to the side, and then I cracked in 2 eggs, and that's going to scramble up really quickly. And once it has, I'm just going to combine that in with the rice. So now I'm just seasoning it up with some onion powder. I meant to add in some minced garlic, but it just completely slipped my mind. And now for this meat. This was such a mess. Like, I just want to burst out laughing about how ridiculous my hands look. And I could easily zoom this in so y'all can't see that, but I just want y'all to see how big of a mess I really am. But I just trimmed off some of that hard fat that was on the back, and I'm pretty sure that I cut this steak the wrong way. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to do it the opposite way, against the grain. I don't know why I cannot remember to do that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that I bought the wrong teriyaki sauce. I don't have much experience cooking with teriyaki. I've done it maybe 1 or 2 other times, and it was forever ago. I know that the last time I bought it, it was a lot thinner, more like a soy sauce, so I'm pretty sure that's what I was supposed to use. As you can see, this is a lot thicker, more like a glaze, but oh well. I cooked it for 3 to 4 minutes, and then I tossed back in the rice and the veggies, and I let that heat up for a few minutes, and then lastly, I just drizzled it with a little bit of extra teriyaki sauce, and that was it. This turned out all right. It definitely wasn't bad, but I was just a little disappointed for 2 reasons. For one, I just thought the teriyaki sauce was a little too sweet for this. I did end up adding in some soy sauce, and that helped a ton. But the other thing is the meat came out kind of tough, which is always so annoying. It could have been the way I cut it. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure I'd make this one again, to be honest. But that is going to wrap up this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.